Hey everyone, we have got a big ending happening today. Neptune is going to be ingressing into the sign of Aries, and that is going to close out an almost 15-year cycle in the sign of Pisces. So it's a big deal because it's a major cycle coming to an end. And of course, Neptune is going to ingress into the sign of Aries, and Saturn is not too far behind because mid-Feb, Saturn is also going to ingress into that sign. But what can Neptune tell us about this? Now, of course, Neptune rules Pisces. So the time that he has been in Pisces, of course, that is the home sign. There is a degree of comfort. And of course, when we look at the more benefic qualities of that, it's about that connection in with source energy and our intuition. So relying on our intuition, our inner compass, and trusting that moving forward. But of course, you know, as with everything, we look at the light and the shadow sides, and there can be elements of fantasy, delusion, deception, sabotage, including self-sabotage. So certainly, whilst Neptune has been in the final degrees of Pisces, when it gets towards that final anaretic degree, it can be quite karmic energy that comes up. And of course, Neptune reveals stuff. So what's been hidden? And when we think of the Piscean energy, what's really been hidden in that subconscious essence that's come up for us to see? So you might have been aware of certain patterns coming up that need to be addressed, processed, healed accordingly. But also it's a bit of a wake-up call. And Neptune has been lifting the veil on a lot of things. So becoming aware of certain things that were hidden from us, that we've been hiding from ourselves, all of those types of things, and recognizing what is behind the curtain in a lot of aspects as well. So it's been a wake-up call in that respect. And of course, it's not just Neptune doing this, there's other factors at play. I always say that astrology, it's the bigger picture in the cosmos. There's a lot more planetary energy, you know, with the asteroids, with the luminaries, all of it. It's the bigger picture. But if you just look at Neptune, Neptune does, of course, signal to the other planets because Neptune is an outer planet. Signals to the rest of the solar system what's coming. And this is why we've got that essence of really connecting in with our intuition and trusting that inner knowing within and not confusing it with any kind of deceptive energy or any sort of imposed narrative that might be being broadcast, for example. So it's looking at all of that and what Neptune might have taught us during that time in Pisces. And of course, it was 2011 that Neptune ingressed into Pisces. And of course, there's going to be movement, there's retrogrades and so on during this time. But, you know, with this 2026, we're not yet at April, so it is just under the 15 years mark. Neptune generally spends 14 to 15 years in a sign, so it's a big cycle. So you might look back on the period of time from 2011 to now, and, you know, if there's certain aspects that have been revealed to you over that time that might have been hidden or just not aware of, and what that's really shown you. So, of course, when Neptune ingresses into Aries, it's that new beginning again. So we're closing out a big cycle and moving into a new sign. We've also got the Pisces Aries cusp as well. So that's a major ending and new beginning in itself. And then, of course, Aries, because it represents the self, it's beginning a wake-up call to ourself and our sovereignty. So what have we understood from what the subconscious has been saying, what our intuition has been saying, allowing us to connect further in, what's been revealed to us, and how has that informed the way that we want to apply ourselves going forward? It's about sovereignty, it's about going after what we want and recognizing that we have that warrior spirit, that power, that boldness, that assertiveness to actually pursue what we want to pursue. So Neptune, of course, again, taking into account light and shadow, There can be elements coming up where we might have perhaps self-sabotaged that in the past because we've not believed in ourselves enough. And now we've recognized, because of all the patterns coming up, that actually, we are worthy of what we want to pursue. So it's given us that boost to really step into our sovereignty. It's about seeing it clearly out of the Neptunian fog that might have been around, certainly for the past few years. And I say that particular reference to the past 3 years because Saturn has, of course, been in Pisces during that time, with the exception of a brief moment where he did ingress into Aries and then retrograded back. So he gave Pisces a bit of a break, gave Aries a bit of a taster, and then, of course, moved back into Pisces to cover old ground and close out these cycles and wrap up these lessons in terms of getting us aligned with our spiritual truth, our soul's integrity. So, bearing that in mind, that's all been happening. We've been tested from Saturn in terms of our soul's truth, and Neptune's been also showing us stuff. So, they've been working together in that way. So, uncovering the hidden stuff through lessons potentially, but hand in hand, that energy working together, all for our highest good, even if it can feel challenging. And Pisceans, those with prominent Pisces placements, but particularly Pisces sun signs, may have felt that even more so because of the impact on their natal sun, the soul essence within their natal chart. So, of course, these lessons quite heightened in relation to that. But it's not discounting everybody else, because Pisces is going to happen somewhere in your chart. You might have certain aspects to it. You might have planets there. You might have asteroids there. It's different for everybody. We're all on a unique journey. So even with Neptune ingressing into Aries and, of course, Saturn following, shortly behind, that doesn't necessarily mean that, Pisces are immune from that, because there's still going to be lessons around sovereignty. But the impact of having both Saturn and Neptune in Pisces at the same time, serving up these lessons, lifting the veil and testing us, has been fairly intense, okay? And I say that myself as a Pisces. And if you're a Piscean or you have prominent Pisces placements and it resonates with you, you're going to know exactly what I mean. So, of course, Aries, if you're an Aries sun sign, your sun is in Aries. So, of course, during the time that Saturn is in Aries, Saturn is going to conjunct your sun at some point. So there is going to be that heightened essence of Saturn, okay? And I know I've drifted onto Saturn a bit, and I was mainly talking about Neptune, but the two energies together have been fundamental the past 3 years to really understand what's been going on within us. And of course, it is that test of inner authority. And are we going to stand up for ourselves? Are we going to put boundaries in place where we need to? So Neptune has been showing us a lot, bringing it to the surface, those epiphanies, those aha moments, which of course also serves as that enlightenment, because we become aware and then we understand, right, okay, this is a repeating pattern. I need to understand a bit more, or this is what I need to do in order to close it out. And so working with that energy in order to maximize our potential this lifetime by closing out these cycles. And last year, 2025, has been a lot about cycles ending, so endings and beginnings. And that's still going to happen this year. We've still got planets moving into different signs. But I feel that, with what Neptune and Saturn are doing in Aries and the fact that they are going to come together in a powerful conjunction on the 20th of February, that is going to also heighten this bold power move that is supported by these two planets. If we align with that energy and we are aware of that and we are open to what is being revealed to us, okay? Based on the self, remember the Aries energy, it's based on the self, what we want to pursue. Are we bold enough to go after it? Do we need to be a bit more assertive in order to pursue what we want? Do we need to stand up for ourselves? Are we holding ourselves true to our sovereignty? Is our inner authority in line with our soul's truth because of what we've learnt during Saturn and Neptune in Pisces? So it's things like that, okay, to just bear in mind. I have got the chart for the moment that Neptune ingresses into Aries, just to show you, because that can set a bit of a theme for the next 14, 15 years. Of course, the astrology is going to change because we know the planets, the asteroids, the luminaries are going to move. different aspects are going to be formed and so on, but it just sets out a bit of a theme the moment that he ingresses in, so we can just be aware of that. But yeah, we've got a lot coming up. We've got a lot coming up in February. We've got Neptune ingressing into Aries later today, 26th of January. It might be the 27th time zone wise for Australia. And then we've got on the 17th of February, how could I forget that date? 17th of February, we've got the new moon solar eclipse in Aquarius, which also heralds the start of the year of the fire horse. But before that, on the 13th or 14th of Feb, depending on where you are in the world, that's when Saturn makes his entrance into Aries. So we've got Neptune doing it. Saturn will then move into Aries and close out his cycle in Pisces. A few days after that, we've got the new moon solar eclipse opening up this eclipse portal. Year of the fire horse comes bounding in. This is the momentum that's going to carry us forward, for the rest of the year. And then a few days after that, we've got this powerful conjunction between Neptune and Saturn in Aries. So it is like boom, 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 power, power, power. But with that can be awakenings, more epiphanies, this sense of really wanting to own who we are, stand up for ourselves. Okay, so you might want to just ask yourself the question with Neptune ingressing into Aries, what might I have been hiding from myself in terms of my own sovereignty? Have I actually been hiding my authenticity in terms of my sovereignty? Do I need to show myself more? And have I actually self-sabotaged certain opportunities that I've wanted to pursue because of XYZ, for example? Okay. And recognizing what you're being shown, because again, certainly over the past few years, maybe even the past 5 years, we're becoming aware that not everything we see is the truth. So we're really understanding with that Neptunian fog, which can create confusion, but we're also understanding when that dissipates and we get the clarity because we're checking in with our intuition, plus we're going through the Saturnian lessons, we understand what's real and what's not. So it brings us a sense of connection to ourselves, to that intuition, and recognizing what is real and what isn't. Because in ourselves, we need to understand what's real. Okay, so to embrace that authenticity with inner authority, then it gets reflected back to you. There's more awareness of what's going on that doesn't align with that. Okay, so let's jump into the chart. Okay, bear with me. Okay, so this is the chart, the moment that Neptune ingresses into Aries. So for us in the UK on GMT, it's 17:34:29. So you might as well say 17:35. Okay, apply your own time zones as appropriate. So here we have Neptune, 0 degrees, 0 minutes of Aries. And Saturn is not far behind. He's approaching the final degrees of Pisces. So it can still feel a bit clunky because we're still closing out cycles when it comes to what Saturn is teaching us. He wants to leave Pisces knowing that we've learned our lessons when it comes to our soul's truth. So, Neptune is kind of done what Neptune's needed to do, lifted the veil on those things, but we're still understanding and closing out those lessons. So, of course, they've parted ways, but they're still quite close. So Neptune is going to prepare the Aries energy for Saturn's arrival. So it could bring further epiphanies today, further awakenings, but also new cycles starting. Okay, that's a big message as well. So 0 degrees, 0 minutes. And what we have is we have a square, which is a challenging aspect in astrology, a square that's going to Lilith. And Lilith is now in Capricorn. Okay. There is a trine from Lilith to the South Node, and the trine is harmonious. But in terms of the square, and the square is coming from both Neptune and Saturn, by the way. So that square to Lilith is indicating some challenge in relation to those remaining lessons that pertain to our inner authority. So if you think Lilith in Capricorn, there is a harshness to that energy. She will show us a lot of things, just like Saturn does. So she will actually show us what we really desire, but perhaps we have held ourselves back or we've suppressed something. But she will also show us the shadow aspects that relate to that, why it might have held us back. So it's recognizing that Capricorn is all about achieving, and Saturn rules Capricorn, of course. So it's all about achieving, and it's taking emotion out of it. It's just having that drive and determination to go after what you want. So in terms of this trine with the South Node, by going after what we want and finally admitting where those shadow flaws might be, that's allowing us to move away from the past. But in order to do that, we also have to accept that our expectations might be a bit out of balance. So having those expectations with South Node in Virgo of things having to be a certain way, and that's not really worked out for us necessarily. So of course we have to be open to surrender with the flow of that mutable energy and align more with the North Node in Pisces, which is of course the ethereal path, trusting the inner compass, going with the flow. So not to hold on to too many expectations of how things should be or how things should look. And the salient point being, we need to go after what we want to achieve this, but it might look differently to how we first perceived it to be or expected it to be. And just releasing and detaching from cycles that don't align with that path of what we are trying to achieve. So that's assisting us going forward. But the challenge comes with, of course, still needing to learn those lessons. And where our inner authority could be challenged because of shadow aspects, it's about understanding what Saturn might be teaching us in terms of our soul's truth. So recognizing the integrity within that is also harmonious with the inner authority in order to support us going after what we want. But we have to go through these tests. We have to learn these lessons to understand that fully. And of course, Neptune is still there, waking us up to that, revealing stuff that might be hidden. And because he's now at this point moving into Aries, it is that kind of wake-up call to, okay, you want to pursue something for yourself, Aries energy. You need to stand up for yourself. And by doing that, you do need to understand what might have been holding you back from achieving something, going after something in the past. There's a semi-square that's going to the moon as well from Neptune, okay? And the moon at this point will be in Taurus. So in terms of how we feel about, liking the finer things in life and quite I say materialistic view, it's about the physical reality. So it's about having things in our physical reality that make us feel good. And of course we want that, but we want to be able to pursue what we want to pursue in order to have the things that we want to have. And the minor challenge is, okay, it's waking us up to something where we need to pursue a certain course of action to go after what we want to achieve, addressing those shadow aspects and recognizing that we might not feel that stable, because we're still trying to work things out. However, so that's a minor challenging energy, but the moon is also in a grand trine with the South Node and Juno. Juno is also in Capricorn. Okay, so that's another feminine asteroid in Capricorn. So the positive with this is recognizing the cardinal energy is Capricorn. So it starts off with Juno, commitment. Okay, commitment to what you want to achieve. That's enabling closing out cycles. And in turn, that is enabling us to feel more secure and stable because we're finally moving in the direction of what we want. The challenge is just being aware of it and recognizing that we do have to stand up for ourselves with that Aries energy as part of this quest to go after what we want and to enjoy those finer things in life that we want to enjoy. It's feeling worthy of receiving the bountiful pleasures of life because you're going after what you want. So there's that joy. But it comes from inner authority and that drive to achieve what you want to achieve, address the shadow aspects, learn those lessons that might have been causing, those suppressions or any elements of self-sabotage as an example, learning those lessons and then realizing actually I can pursue this and be secure in myself first and foremost. And it's enabling me to close out cycles that have not served me because they're not aligned with my path. And remember, this grand trine is in earth signs. So there is a groundedness to it, but it's also very much reality based. Okay. And Neptune, Neptune being that ethereal planet is quite out there. It's very dreamy, and it's important to have dreams. I'll always advocate that, not just because I'm a Pisces, but I will always advocate somebody having dreams, because that's just a beautiful, magical way to be. But there needs to be some realistic aspect to this as well. And this is also what we might have learnt from Neptune's time in Pisces. I mean, let's not forget, this is a major cycle closing out, almost 15 years in Pisces, and moving into Aries and starting a new chapter there, where it's just going to be revelations relating to sovereignty. We've got to stand up for ourselves. So we apply what we've learnt with that ethereal capacity, and we still hold on to that, of course, because that's the essence of Neptune. But it's bringing it forth into this cardinal energy of Aries and that drive to actually be assertive and go after what we want, standing on our own 2 feet and recognizing that that is stable for us, because choices from the past, patterns from the past, maybe they haven't been that stable. So it's just recognizing we need to still have dreams, but we need to ensure that we are coming from a reality perspective in terms of what we're trying to create for ourselves. And to do that, we need to go after what we want to do, to achieve what we want to achieve. Now, of course, we've still got this stellium going on in Aquarius. And because of planets moving, we've now got a series of conjunctions. I mean, they're all close to each other, as you can see, degrees wise. But we've almost got 3 little pairs here. This is what I felt when I looked at this. So Mars, of course, recently ingressing into Aquarius. And at that time, Pluto and the Sun were both at 3 degrees. The Sun has obviously since moved a bit since then, but that created a Cassimi. So it was absolute soul rebirth energy. And when you think of it, towards the end of Neptune in Pisces, it's that soul rebirth. It's that embodying that source energy, what the inner compass is saying, in order to apply that and move forward. We've still got that closeness. There's still 3 degrees between Pluto and the Sun, so they're still close. But what I found more interesting was we've got Mars and Pluto that are closer together, and that's 2 quite dominant masculine planets together. We've got the Sun and Vesta, so the Sun relating to the soul essence and Vesta relating to the sacred flame. And then we've got Mercury and Venus, who are kind of coupled together. So that just felt quite, I don't know, quite important. Obviously, planets, the asteroids, the luminaries are going to move. But looking at the chart as a freeze frame of the cosmos at the time Neptune ingresses in, this is what we have. This is the picture of what we have. So that masculine drive from Mars and Pluto to take action towards a new reality, it's the innovative self moving forward. It's that rebirth self. It's the wake-up call of sovereignty and what we're trying to pursue. That enables that transformation that Pluto's been calling for, but on a deep level, because it was that soul rebirth moment, and it still is. Sun and Vesta, absolutely important to pursue that sacred flame, what sparks that joy within, what sparks that passion, what inspires you, and it's driven from the soul. And then Mercury and Venus, we need to ensure we're communicating in an innovative way that is aligned with the new rebirth self, our authentic self, our individual self, because Aquarius is very unique and individual as well, okay? Because it is that quirky innovation to Aquarius. So communicating as a unique individual in terms of what we're trying to achieve, so that authentic expression coming forth, but also within our connections, because let's not forget Aquarius rules the 11th house of connections. So, this is about expanding our connections and our communication with people to enhance our path in an aligned way. It's got to be aligned with this new reality that we're trying to create, obviously. And then Venus as well. It's very important to have boundaries in place when it comes to this new reality that we're carving out for ourselves. So we've got to make sure we're investing our time, our energy, our love, our attention, our resources in the right place. It's bringing those returns for us. And maybe we do need to express ourselves, because Mercury is so close, in relation to that. Okay, so there's a lot of energy. We've got a mixture of masculine and feminine energy balanced out with the sun. So there is this polarity going on within Aquarius, and it's very heightened energy in terms of the new path going forward, the new reality of that which we're trying to create. It's all about innovation and also being individual, being unique. And this is part of the sovereignty, okay, that we are becoming aware of and have been becoming aware of for some time, that we need to own our individual traits, our authentic expression, and applying that going forward in terms of what we are trying to achieve. The other new beginning is Pallas, who has entered Pisces. So the asteroid Pallas, she represents strategizing. Okay, so it's about fighting for what you want. She's like the supporting cast to Mars, because she is a little warrior spirit. But this is about strategizing. And of course, now in Pisces, it is about aligning with the flow and the surrender of the ethereal path. And the strategy comes from a soul-led place, from intuition. That's the path forward, because the North Node is in Pisces, of course, and we know Saturn is closing out his residency in Pisces as well. So lessons around that. Can we apply that strategy moving forward? Okay. And just recognizing that there's ebb and flow to this, and it's not necessarily going to resonate with everybody. This is about, the planetary energy that's supporting us. But of course, when you apply it to your own natal chart, it's going to be impacting, a different place to somebody else, for example. So it's very unique to you, but it's recognizing, all this energy in Aquarius, where might that be happening in your chart? And certainly with Neptune ingressing into Aries, are you an Aries? Do you have prominent placements in Aries? And, just think about this next period coming up. Saturn has been in Pisces since the 7th of March, 2023. So he's closing out, almost 3 years in that sign, with the exception of that little period of time that he went into Aries. But, he's going to be doing another few years, but in Aries. So it's recognizing what's coming based on what has been, and learning from that, applying the wisdom from what he's taught us whilst he's been in Pisces. Okay. Now I'm just going to show you the chart against the UK's chart, just to give you some context on the house system. Okay, so what you see drawn there is what I've just shown you. The inner chart is the UK's natal chart, and the outer wheel, sorry, I said the inner chart, I meant the inner wheel is the UK's natal chart, and the outer is what I've just shown you, Neptune ingressing into Aries at that point, freeze frame of the cosmos. Now, interestingly, for the UK as a collective energy, this is happening still in the 9th house, because Neptune's been in the 9th house for some time. But if you notice that the natal Uranus in the chart is also 0 degrees, so that's about change. And it's about innovation. It can be sudden change as well. So it might bring a lot of kind of sudden change for people because of this shift. So it feels like a shift, but it kind of feels like a powerful shift as well. And this is what we're learning and discovering, 9th house, and how we can apply that to motivate ourselves moving forward. And there's still this element of being open to what we are discovering in that respect, what both of those are showing us. Now, with Uranus in the mix as well, it's kind of like seismic type shifts, I would say, because it is about profound change. And we could be discovering that over the course of the next few months, okay? When Neptune does make it past the 4 degrees point of Aries, he'll move into the 10th house for the UK. So that's definitely enhancing the inner authority. But at the moment, it's still a bit of a learning and discovery game. So we need to recognize what we're being shown when it comes to ourself, our sovereignty, and how that plays out in relation to change that's going on that we're becoming aware of. And Saturn's still serving up those lessons at the same time because he's in the same house. Okay. The grand trine is actually between the 10th house, the 3rd house, and the 6th house. So it relates to inner authority, expression, and our daily routines in terms of being committed to what we're trying to achieve, closing out those cycles where perhaps we've held ourselves back in our expression because we believe things have to be a certain way, and how that's empowering the stability within our inner authority, okay, in terms of our emotional home. Lilith is also in the 6th house. So, you know, there is something about well-being here as well, because the 6th house can relate to that, and also being of service. So recognizing we want to achieve something. Do we need to recognize, certainly in terms of our boundaries, that we've maybe been giving too much of ourselves away and not enough time applied to ourselves for what we want to achieve? That's another thing that Lilith can show us, but also Neptune and Saturn can show us, because it's a lesson and it could be revealed in relation to our sovereignty. So let's not discount that. We might be discovering that. And how can we adapt our daily routines in order to overcome that, rectify it, learn the lesson, gain the wisdom, move forward? Okay. And how do we feel about that? It could challenge our inner authority with that semi-square to the moon. But again, that relates to our stability within our inner authority. So we've got to take our power back in this situation. This is what feels like the clear message here. Okay, and I'll leave it there. I'm not going to go into too much detail on this chart. It's just to give you some context with the house system, but you could look at yours against it and just see where it's happening for you. And yeah, you're going to know if you're an Aries sun sign, you're going to potentially know what degrees your sun is in Aries. So then you can sort of track that when Neptune and Saturn are going to conjunct your natal sun. Okay, right. I'm going to leave it there. I wish you all the best for this next season of Neptune in Aries after he's closed out this cycle in Pisces. I hope that whatever's been revealed to you during his time in Pisces has helped you understand what may have been hidden, what you've needed to recognize on a sort of epiphany level, that clarity that can movement forward in your life, and hand in hand with what Saturn has been showing us as well. So of course, learning those lessons along the way. So hopefully you found that useful, even if it has felt a bit intense. And at times it could have felt very confusing because of the Neptunian fog. But sometimes that has to happen in order for us to really dive deeper into our intuition, to recognize what is the truth and what isn't. So Saturn's been helping strengthen that, as has Neptune. So moving into this Aries chapter for them both, hopefully there's more wisdom within the soul in terms of an intuitive capability to then move forward and apply that wisdom going forward with the essence of sovereignty, which is very important. Okay, so let me know if there's anything else that you want to know in future videos. I'm interested to hear your feedback on, you know, what is covered in these videos, if the content is helpful for you, and if you want to see more of the charts, less of the charts, drop a comment below, let me know. Of course, like, share, subscribe. It helps the message get out there to more people. And if you want to work with me one-on-one, there's details in the description box below, so check that out. But yes, until the next time, take care, and I'll see you soon.